The most disappointing quarterback so far through 2 weeks. Who do you think it is?
I think this one might be a little bit surprising because I mean a lot of people will probably pick a quarterback that's on a team that's 0-2, but I'm gonna have to go with Deshaun Watson because
Mm.
look, he's has the most guaranteed money, 230 million guaranteed, and if you're getting paid that, there's a certain stature of play that us fans expect from you, and I just haven't seen it because as much as other people, because I already have an inkling of what you're gonna say because we might have spoken about it. Deshaun Watson had a full training camp. This guy has been, he had a full off season with this team. Not like he doesn't know, it's new that he just came back on suspension. He played, what was it, 6 or 5 games last season. This
Hmm.
isn't a full, pulling him off the couch here. He's got time to work with his Browns team, and this Browns team, it's not horrible. I mean, it's got a good defense. They basically won the first game versus the Bengals purely on their defense because look, Deshaun Watson played Joe Burrow, but it wasn't a shootout. It wasn't like, Deshaun Watson completely outclassed Joe Burrow. They both played poor. They both just play, Deshaun Watson has been playing a bit almost at best a game manager. And when you look at the Steelers, I mean, my God, he just looked like you say, it looked like he was running in cement. He just looks slow. He looks big. He looks lethargic. I mean, I don't really necessarily blame him for the interception. I mean, that's the pick six was unfortunate because it bounces off, his receiver's hands, but he just didn't do enough to win. Like there's certain things where he's making plays where you're scratching your head. So what are you doing? I mean, he gets the ball, he stutters, and then he runs and he tries to rush, but one, he's slow, and then he just immediately gets caught up, and then it fully puts the defense back on the field, and now you're wearing out your defense. It's just a mixture of things. Is that what you expect from Deshaun Watson? And look, we've talked about it. We're not expecting Deshaun Watson to look like Houston, the guy that was a top three. But we're expecting if you're getting paid 230 million guaranteed dollars to at least be top five, top seven. Right now, I think his completion percentage is down with the likes of Zach Wilson. It's pretty low out of I think what how many odd quarterbacks, 30 plus quarterbacks. He's in the 30s. For a guy that has 230, that's unacceptable because I can't really find many excuses to give him because look, sometimes I'll give players the benefit of the doubt if there's something going wrong. Maybe it's a new system, and yeah, it is still a bit of a new system, but you've had the time to get with your receiver core. Nothing's that you have weapons. I mean, we see the weapons that they have, and we know that defense, led by Myles Garrett and them lot, they're very good. Obviously, it's unfortunately they lost Nick Chubb, a very vital piece of their offense. But I mean, now a lot more pressure is going to be on Deshaun Watson, and now
Hmm.
he's going to have to answer these questions because now you don't have Nick Chubb. A lot of the pressure is going to go on you now. They
Yeah.
need you to be the $230 million guy they paid you for,
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate because I mean, look, maybe I gave them the kiss of death by saying maybe they're my dark horse for the Super Bowl, and then all this happens, but I just want to see Deshaun Watson get back to a little bit to where he was at because it's unfortunate to see a guy as talented as him not live up to his standards.
Yeah. I mean, look, Deshaun Watson wasn't going to be the guy that I said, but I do want to reiterate a little bit of what you said because watching that game yesterday against the Steelers, I sat there and I said, Deshaun Watson looks slow. Like he runs the ball, and I'm sitting there and I said, why does he look slow? This is not the Deshaun Watson that I remember. I mean, I am not expecting him to return to Houston, Deshaun Watson. I'm not expecting that. I don't think anybody was really expecting that, but I don't understand how he's gotten so much slower. I mean, he used to be fast. I mean, he used to be a threat on the run,
Quick.
but he's just not anymore. And the statistics are what they are. Obviously, didn't have the best week one. This game, not necessarily terrible, but not great either. Not what you expect when you're getting the money that Deshaun Watson is getting.
Too many
Yes,
3 and outs.
yeah, yeah.
Just too many.
Look, like you said, the pressure is going to be on Deshaun Watson even more so now due to the unfortunate injury with Nick Chubb. But he has the weapons. This Browns team, I agreed with you after week one. They had the potential to be a potential dark horse, for contending for the Super Bowl because they have a very good defense. If Deshaun Watson returned to, what we kind of saw at one point with Houston, they have Amari Cooper, they have Elijah Moore, they have They had Nick Chubb. They have good
I always
weapons.
forget their tight ends. It's
And
what is it?
Njoku, they have
Njoku,
good
Njoku.
weapons. But Deshaun Watson, he's kind of the reason I think he's could potentially be holding this team back right now. That's the reality of it. So, I think it's a very good shout for him being the most disappointing quarterback so far because, last night against the Steelers, he had above a 50% completion percentage, going 22 for 40. I think that's a 54% completion percentage. Come on, what are we talking about here?
It's some of the worst. It's almost the worst. If I'm not mistaken, it's the third worst out of all quarterbacks. The only people that are worse was Zach Wilson that I saw. I was like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. What's happening?
I just don't understand it because, look, I understand, being away from the league for a little bit, you're not going to necessarily jump right back in and be a top 5 quarterback. I get that, but I just don't understand how you got so much slower. We're talking about.
So you keep hammering the point of him being slow
because I just sit there and I watch I said it multiple times watching him scramble, and I'm just like, he can't avoid pressure. Like those Steelers defensive linemen were quicker than him. I understand maybe TJ Watt, he's faster.
TJ Watt, yeah,
but I'm talking about those interior defensive linemen. 350, 360 pound big boys faster than Deshaun Watson. I'm like, what? I just don't quite understand it. And then, another thing yesterday that I don't know if you necessarily picked up on it, but he got a personal foul, and then he's over here pushing the ref. What is going on in this guy's head? He should have been ejected. He literally should have gotten ejected. I don't know why he wasn't ejected, because typically if you push the ref, you put your hands on the ref, you get ejected. He wasn't. I don't know what was going through Deshaun Watson's head, but this is a 28-year-old guy. He still, should be in his prime. I'm not saying he needs to necessarily, be Houston Deshaun Watson right now, but he should be better than what he is. So I don't necessarily know what's gone wrong, but he needs to figure it out. He needs to figure it out quick, especially now without Nick Chubb. There's going to be a lot more pressure on him to carry this offense because, yes, they might sign a guy. Yes, they might bring back Kareem Hunt, but he's not Nick Chubb. So you need Deshaun Watson to be the guy that you paid him to be now more than ever if you want to make the playoffs, if you want to be the team that you want to be, especially in a loaded AFC North, because, the Steelers just beat you. I just still don't think they're a great team, but they just beat you. That's the reality. They just beat you. Ravens, very good team, led by Lamar. The Bengals are not going to be this bad, you would assume, going forward, especially if Joe Burrow is healthy. We're going to talk about him in a second here, but you expect the Bengals to be better. If the Browns want to be the team that they want to be, they want to at least make the playoffs. Deshaun Watson is going to have to step up his game considerably because he just looked rattled yesterday. He looked a shell of himself. Just not what you expect for a guy that they're paying, $230 guaranteed dollars, $230 million guaranteed dollars.
Yeah, $230.
That wouldn't be that bad. But $230 million, that's pretty bad.
Okay, yeah.
But that's not even my most disappointing quarterback, because there just so happens to be a guy in the same division who I'm considering to be more disappointing so far. I'm going to say Joe Burrow, signing the big money record contract extension in the offseason. And so far this season, he hasn't been the MVP contender that we expected. He was right up there in the mix. I think he was the third betting favorite for MVP coming into the season. And now I look at this and I say, what has he done so far this season? That first game, 14 for 31, 82 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That's pathetic. It's just pathetic. It was a disaster. It was a disgrace. And yes, he might have not had a full training camp or whatever excuse you want to make for him. It's unacceptable. It cannot happen. Less than 50% completion percentage, 82 yards. It's unacceptable. It's a disgrace. I said it last week on the video. It can't happen. Then he follows it up this week. Yes, he was better. It's hard to do much worse than 82 yards. But 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. But the main thing is, this Bengals team, they were in the championship game last year. They were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. This team has high expectations. Joe Burrow just got the record contract extension. He's supposed to be an MVP front runner. He's supposed to be, that guy. So far this season, he has not been that guy. He's 22nd this season in QBR. And he's supposed to be an MVP front runner. For me, he has to be the most disappointing QB so far because he's been nowhere near what we expected. And yes, you can make the excuse that, he's coming off of the calf injury. He did re-aggravate the calf injury. And now he's uncertain if he's going to play next week. But 0-2. This Bengals team is too good to be 0-2. Yes, they were 0-2 last year and made the championship game, but this team is too good to be 0-2. And you lost to two division rivals. You lost to the Browns, who just lost to the Steelers, of all people. I mean, yes, I still think the Browns are a solid team, but you got embarrassed by them. Like, you got embarrassed. And then you lose to the Ravens. Yes, it was a close game, but Joe Burrow needs to play better. And now, obviously, I can't necessarily take the injury into account and saying that's why he's been the most disappointing, but he needs to fix this, and he needs to fix it fast, because this Bengals team, they could go from bad to worse real quick. Because, yes, let's just say he doesn't play next week. This Bengals team could very easily be 0-3. And it's very difficult to come back from 0-3 to make the playoffs. It's very difficult. So I sit there and I say there's a lot of question marks around this Bengals team, a lot of question marks around Joe Burrow, and he needs to figure it out fast. And let's just say he does play in week 3. I don't know what Joe Burrow we're going to get because of the fact he's going to be playing through this calf injury. So I think the question is there as do you sit him out and let him fully recover, or do you try to play through it? Because, if you don't play through it, you could take the loss, and then, you're looking at it's going to be very difficult to, win this division, because the Ravens have a chance to go 3-0. You could be 0-3. It's very difficult to make up that ground. There's not that many games in the NFL. It's not like the NBA. It's very difficult. So I think that there's a lot of question marks around the Bengals right now. But from what I've seen from Joe Burrow so far, even if he's playing through the injury, you have to consider him the most disappointing quarterback in the league, because of the money he just got, MVP front runner, and his QBR is 22nd in the league, and he's been an average quarterback at best so far.
Look, I cannot agree with anything you said. I think your Joe Burrow bias is shining through here, because just the fact that you're making a point that he's injured, just because though, as much as it's not a complete excuse, you can't, right him from every wrong, because I was here week 1 saying, Joe Burrow, you have to play better. But you cannot watch Joe Burrow right now and say he's 100% football, he's in football shape, because he's not. Because he did not get a full camp. He did not get his full camp. And as much as people want to say, that doesn't really matter, at this level, it does. Because when you're playing the best teams, arguably in the world, you're playing division rivals, you have to be at your best. And you could have every weapon there, but if you're not 100%, it's hard to be there and make those plays. And Joe Burrow does not look 100%. He looks nowhere near it. And now he re-aggravates his injury. It's starting to get bad to worse. And because now there's questions as to if he's going to play the next game. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and give him complete, excuse and just banish all the other ones, because he didn't play horrible the second game, but it just wasn't of his standard. It was a bit more game managed type. It's just that he didn't do anything necessarily horrible, but we know the level Joe Burrow could play at. And yes, like you said, the Bengals were 0-2 last season, but the difference was Joe Burrow wasn't hurt, and now there's a lot of questions that what should they do? And I look at it as I would prefer they sit Joe Burrow out, just because that's why you have backup quarterbacks for said reason. And you got to think the Bengals have the offensive weapons out the ass. I mean, they have Jamar Chase, they have T Higgins, they have Tyler Boyd, and look, I have Jamar Chase on fantasy. I want my guy to get some catches, man. I need some points here, and Joe Burrow's not doing that right now because he just doesn't look 100% in football shape. And I know I saw a lot of people throwing around that there's no getting healthier through the season. It's impossible to just get healthier through each game, week after week playing these games. That's why you have to sit him out. Hopefully that's enough time to get him at least back, to feeling more comfortable, because look, he just doesn't look as mobile. He doesn't look as confident and poised in the pocket as we know Joe Burrow to be. But I mean, compared to everybody else in the league, I mean, you got guys like Justin Herbert. You got a guy that we didn't even talk about, Russell Wilson. I mean, really? We're going to say Joe Burrow is more disappointing than all of them? And I think it's unfair to completely say, oh, look at the contract he signed, because he signed that contract when he was still injured. I mean, he's not 100%. It's not like he's going to the season, fucking with zero anything, no excuses, no nothing. The fact that there's something there, it's a bit unfair to hold that over his head that, oh, look, you're the most paid quarterback, because it's not unlike, because you compare it to like the point I just made, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has none of these excuses. And he has the most guaranteed money. He's not the highest paid, but it's the most guaranteed out of everybody. And he has zero excuses compared to Joe Burrow, who didn't get the luxuries of Deshaun Watson. He didn't get everything Deshaun had because he got injured in camp. But
All right.
I can't completely disagree. He hasn't been disappointing, but to label him the most out of everybody after I just named, I think 3 guys that have been way more disappointing than he have is disrespectful.
All right. Was or was he not an MVP candidate coming into the season?
Yes.
So are these MVP level numbers in any way, shape, or form? 41 for 72 through 2 games, 56.9% completion percentage, 304 yards, and then 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Are those MVP level numbers? I mean, that we're talking there's nowhere near. And the Bengals are 0-2. He put up 82 yards in the first game.
Yes,
for a player that just got a record contract extension. That is extremely disappointing.
From the snaps in the games that you've seen from Joe Burrow, does he look completely healthy? Is he 100% there? No. Like, it'd be different, like I said, if there was nothing. If it's just him shitting the bed, it's like, what is going on? There's question marks about what's going on. The questions that we're asking have an answer.
Look, I mean, if you're out there on the field, that's what I have to judge you based on. What he's been out there on the field is what I have to judge him based on.
I get that because it's a lot that other thing. If you're healthy enough out there to play, you have to play the standard. But there are reasons. There is something. It's not like, this is completely coming out of nowhere. It's out of the blue. These are questions people had going into the season because they knew he missed the entirety. There was questions that he was even going to play at the start of the season. When he first got hurt in camp, we saw we sent it the tweet to each other, looking like he was going to be out for probably a couple of first weeks of the season. So it's like the fact that he's going out there and playing. Yeah, I get that. When you're out there, you have to play, but there's just too many, obvious reasons of why he's not playing to standard and to hold everything over his head when there's compared to other guys that are dramatically worse. I mean, I just don't get it.
I mean, look, the Bengals, to me, the reason why I can label him the most disappointing is due to the expectations, not only of him, but also the team. I don't have as high of expectations for the Browns and Deshaun Watson as I do Joe Burrow. When I look at Joe Burrow, I look at this Bengals team, I'm expecting Super Bowl contenders. I'm expecting Joe Burrow to play at an MVP level. I'm expecting him to play at the level of his contract. The contract that says, the record contract in NFL history. That's what I'm expecting. And whatever, if he's playing through an injury, obviously now he re-aggravated the injury. I don't know necessarily how much of it. Look, I don't know. Was he playing through that injury when he was putting up 14 for 31, 82 yards in week 1? They said he was healthy. He just re-aggravated it in week 2.
You can be healthy, but not completely say, there was no talks of him basically coming out of the game, but no one knows except Joe Burrow. No one knows. No one's ever gonna know.
And
but
obviously he's not gonna talk about that.
If you watch that game, I'm just saying, if you watch the game, it's not normal Joe Burrow.
I mean, like I said, you would hope that this just comes down to the injury, because if it's not, then you got a way bigger conversation.
Yeah, then there's a bigger then we could talk. That's the difference here, because like I said, if it were like other quarterbacks that have been more disappointing, like the ones I named, that were there the whole time, that have no inkling of an injury, or they look 100% fine, then we could sit down and have a conversation and say, what's going on with Joe Burrow? But the fact that I can look at that, there's some things that he's a bit shaken up, and not to mention other things that go along with it. His offensive line's not the best. It's never been good. But the fact that he just doesn't look as mobile, he doesn't look as poised in the pocket as he normally does, tends me to believe that the injury is nagging him, that it's bothering him, that he's a little worried about it. It's in the back of his mind. And when you have those demons, you have those ghosts over your head, those things in the back of your mind, especially as a quarterback in the quarterback position, that is completely detrimental to your game.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's not going to, look, I kind of think you're kind of preaching to the choir here, because I think we're going to agree to disagree. I think with the expectations I have on Joe Burrow, even if he's playing through the injury, I would expect him to be better. But, to each their own, we'll have to leave that up to the comments. What do you think? Who's right? Who's wrong? Let us know in the comments.